Good evening. You're tuned in to the ghostly broadcast, Paranormal Station. I am Timothy, your host for this evening, broadcasting from my farm, my island of isolation, where I can cultivate the testimonies of others and contemplate their meanings. Our modern world is one of marvels. If you were to take someone from the not-too-distant past and showcase all we have achieved, they might even call them miracles. But for our convenience, we pay a price. Sometimes that price can be all too horrific, both for the receiver and deliverer. Tonight's testimonies hail from North America, where it is often joked that pizza can get to your door faster than an ambulance. Macabre jokes aside, our comfortable world of lazy evenings and fast food can easily be subject to things going horrifically wrong. So, sit back and enjoy our first testimony from Teddy in Wisconsin. Dear Timothy, I'm Teddy. I took a summer job as a pizza delivery driver while I was home from college a while back. I wanted to tell you about the last night I ever delivered. What happened is still fresh in people's minds, but the whole thing, while tragic, didn't make more than the local news. It was pretty late on a Friday night when the drunks get home and the stoners get the munchies. So it was prime time for deliveries and tips. We get a call for 4 large ones, and I get the run. The customer said there was no rush, but I don't get my tips if I don't make it in under 30 minutes. I get in the car, take a back route, and make it there in 29 minutes exactly. I was right in the middle of the nice part of town. The street was empty, and the door to the place was wide open. A couple of cars were squeezed into the driveway, so I assumed they were having a party. I got out of my car with the pizzas, walked to the door, knocked and shouted, "Hello?" No one replied. "Hello, I got your pizzas," I shouted again. Still no reply. I leaned my head through the doorway, not wanting to risk stepping across the threshold and getting yelled at by some drunk Karen. I looked left and right, and then I noticed the hand of someone lounging on a sofa in the living room. "Hey, I got your pizzas here," I shouted again at whoever was sitting in the chair. They didn't move. I figured that they must have passed out drunk or high or whatever, so not wanting to leave empty-handed and get chewed out by my boss, I stepped tentatively into the house and walked to the living room. I rounded the corner and saw the man on the sofa, and then I saw the rest of the partygoers. I smelt the tinny stench of blood and noticed why none had responded. They were all dead. I don't just mean like passed out dead. They were mutilated. 3 were sprawled on the sofa with sticky dark blood from their eye sockets. It was as if the eyes had melted right out of them. They were leaning back, jaws agape like they were screaming. 4th guy was splayed out on the coffee table in the center. His rib cage was open out like he was a freaking carved turkey. The pieces of his insides hung from the ceiling lamp over his body, still dripping blood and gristle. I dropped the pizza boxes and vomited all over them. I ran out of the door and called the police. They arrived quickly and questioned me at my car. I wasn't about to go back in the house. As I stood there, telling the first officer everything I'd seen, I told him we'd only gotten the call within the hour. 4 pizzas for 4 people. It couldn't have happened that quickly, right? That's when his partner came around from checking the back of the house. "We got another set of prints here," he shouted to his partner. His partner left me and went to check it out. More police showed up, and the whole thing became a scene. People were looking out of their windows to see the commotion. For a few weeks, it was the talk of the town, but the law did their best to keep the thing quiet. They didn't want anyone thinking that a crazy person was on the loose. What still shakes me is that we got the call within an hour of me getting there. I'd overheard the coroner that night. He said they'd been dead for at least a few hours, maybe longer. When he said it, the police looked at me with suspicion. I wasn't worried. I had an alibi and plenty of witnesses. I was just the delivery guy. Whoever or whatever did that to them is still out there. They called for the pizzas, like a sick final meal or something. They wanted this to be found. I still get nightmares even now. I feel my eyes burning and the hot blood oozing down my face. People can't do that, Timothy. Something else did. Teddy. Thank you for that harrowing testimony, Teddy. It's more straightforward for the more logical enforcement professions to simply sweep mysteries under the rug. Let them remain mysteries as they believe, sometimes rightly, that it's for the best. Our next testimony comes from Oregon. Dear Timothy, I'm Amelia, and I used to deliver pizzas as a little stopgap job before this happened. Now I can't even drive anymore, but that's still not the worst part. The worst part is not being believed. I was making a delivery to some house in the sticks. It was early enough in the night, but it was pitch black on the roads. I'll admit, I was going a little faster than I should have been, but you gotta make them tips, right? I'm coming around bends, looking for my turn and not paying attention to what's in front of me. A quick flash darts across the windscreen, and the car smacks into something. I jolted at the thud and careened off into the side of the road. The car flipped, and I lost consciousness for a little bit. When I came to, I was upside down. I tried to move, but felt daggers of pain all over my body. I let out a yell, and even that hurt. Outside the windscreen, I saw a mangled buck on the road. It was breathing hard, but I could see fresh wounds weeping blood. I realized that I must have hit it as it ran across the road. I yelled, cried, and struggled. My eyes streamed, and the pain was unbearable. Then I noticed a rustling in bushes around the car. I heard something moving out there but couldn't see it. I shouted for help but didn't get an answer. I managed to work my seatbelt loose and I fell down. I screamed in agony at the thud. God, it hurt so much. I was in a mess of my own blood and hot pizza slices. I looked out at the dying buck when I heard more rustling. Suddenly, something pounced on top of the buck. It was gray, ashen, and skeletal. A gangly figure with long claws and skin stretched tight across it. The buck kicked and bleated as best it could, but it was a goner. The creature was on it, snapping bones and tearing at flesh, biting down into the open wounds and pulling out chunks on red raw meat. I let out a yelp of pained horror, and the thing stopped, frozen and listening. Its long bat-like ears pricked up. It turned to me and stared with big eyes that glowed in the headlights of my upturned car. It darted towards me before I could scream. It was at the passenger side, crouched down and leaning into the wreck. It sniffed the air as it crawled towards me. I could smell sickly sweet rot on its breath as it sniffed at me and growled. I closed my eyes, just praying that I would die quickly. I don't know what this says about the pizza, but the thing started eating the slices. It buried its head into the boxes and started ravenously wolfing down the mess of cheese, bread, and toppings. While the thing was distracted, I did my best to wriggle out of the driver's side, but the door was jammed and there was no way I could break the window. It growled when I moved but didn't look up at me. I heard another car coming up the road and saw its lights coming around the corner. The creature snapped away from its meal and looked towards the car. It darted across the road a split second later, grabbing some of the pizza and the buck with unnatural speed. Then, it was gone into the woods. The other car's driver rescued me from the wreck and called an ambulance. It's been 2 years, and I'm still in recovery. Physical therapists have tried their best, but I still can't walk more than a few steps with a walker. Sometimes, I don't know whether I'm glad to be alive, but I'm confident that I'm better off not being eaten by that thing, whatever it was. To this day, no one I tell believes me, and for my insurance's sake, I learned that it was best to keep quiet about it. Someone's got to know about it, right? Have you and your listeners heard anything about it? Yours sincerely, Amelia. Thank you, Amelia, and I would like to give you my sincerest condolences. Many cursed creatures walk this earth. Some came from people, others are of different origins entirely. Be glad you weren't simply one more meal in its never-ending devouring. Our next testimony comes from Jackson in New York. Dear Timothy, I am writing to you with a testimony that saved my life for your listeners. I was having a rough summer. I was home after my freshman year and was delivering Uber Eats again, thinking that this was all I would do for the rest of my life. I was working up the courage to tell my mom I was dropping out when I got a call for an 843 Crescent. There's a lot I don't remember about that night, and a lot I don't want to remember, but that's something I won't forget. That address. The guy wanted some Chinese food from a place downtown. It was way out in the suburbs, but he had a good tip, so he must have badly wanted it. I took the job, figuring I'd make it the last one of the night. It took forever to get to the quiet little part of town, tucked out of the way in dim streets with widespread lots. In the maze of little houses, I found the place. I knocked on the door, and the dude answered instantly. The dude was standing at the door, waiting for this food. He had this beaming smile on his face, with one hand open for the bag and the other with a fat wad of bill. He'd already tipped on the app, and here he was, handing me a fistful of cash. I thanked him profusely, and he just smiled as I walked off. As I was driving away, feeling pretty good, I noticed my GPS wasn't working. I didn't have any signal, so I thought, no big deal. I remember the way back to the freeway, but I didn't. I don't know why, but I couldn't remember my way back. I turned this way and that. I tried to stop and get cell phone service. Nothing. Eventually, I wound right back at 843 Crescent. I couldn't believe I'd gone in circles. But the weirder thing was that sitting in my passenger seat was a warm, fresh-cooked package of Chinese food. The guy opens the door, grinning at me with that massive stack of money. I freak out and drive off. That was the first time. After that, I lost count. Sometimes I delivered the food and took the cash. Sometimes I begged him to let me go. Sometimes I tried to fight him, but he simply stayed behind his door. It was like he knew my intention every time I returned to his house. Other times, I just sat in the car, eating his food before him. All the time, he never stopped smiling. After a while, I just kept on driving. My car never seemed to run out of gas. I didn't need to sleep. I didn't need to eat. I didn't even need to use the bathroom. I was stuck, To break it all up, I delivered the food and took the money just to give me something to do. I was numb. The last time I delivered, I gave him his food, took the money, and stood there. Tears rolled down my face as I thought about being stuck here forever. That's when he said my name. "Jackson, is this gonna be your last delivery?" he asked. I thought about what he meant. I gave him a weak nod. "Then you'll need this. It'll save you having to cook," he said, handing me back the food. "Have a good night," he said as he closed the door, leaving me with the food, the cash, and freedom. I drove back to the freeway and headed home. Tasted that great food all over again in my parents' living room. I didn't go back to that job. I didn't drop out of college. I lived, and whatever that guy was, it saved me. It turned my life around like it knew me. I looked up the address, but, as you can imagine, it doesn't exist. At least not around here. Believe me, I was a full-blown conspiracy theorist looking for this, but no luck. Wherever it isn't somewhere you can look up. Thanks for reading, Jackson. Thank you for your letter, Jackson. While most of us associate the unknown, paranormal aspects of this world with terrifying Lovecraftian horrors, we have to assume that if our cherished loved ones pass on into this unknown peacefully, then it can't be entirely populated by evil and malice. Our fourth story. Dear Timothy, I've got a story from a night when I stumbled across something I shouldn't have. I guess I got lucky to come out of this alive. The whole thing blew my mind. I'd never seen anything like it before in my life. I was delivering to a warehouse on the outskirts of town. Out of the way, in the middle of the night, when the truckers would be loading up for their morning routes. A real quiet night with not a lot going on, and even dimmer-looking streets. I pull up to the place. There was nothing but chicken wire fences with a couple of lights illuminating the courtyard. I park up expecting a stereotypical heavy-set trucker to waddle out for their slice. I was shocked when a woman in skinny jeans and a tank top came bursting out of the door. She was frantically waving her arms and screaming. "Help me!" she yelled at me and came running towards my car. I could see pure, helpless panic in her eyes. I stepped out of the car to see what was happening and tried to help her. As I did, I heard the loud crack of a gun blast. Red mist burst out from her chest and covered me in blood. The poor woman fell forward and landed face first in the dirt before me. I heard a shotgun rack and looked up to see the shooter. A rough-looking man with a pump-action shouldered and a machete on his hip. "Get away from it," he said, pointing the shotgun barrel at me. I could barely stammer out a response. My eyes darted between him, the dead woman on the floor, and my car. I stared down as the pooling blood reached my shoes. The woman's half-turned face stared blankly with pale blue eyes. Suddenly, she snapped up, slashing at me with her hand. Her face had turned into an angry spectacle of gnashing, sharp fangs and cat-like green eyes. Her pretty face had become creased, snarling and animalistic. A deafening crack blasted my eardrums. The man had shot her again, right through the back of the head, spraying me with blood. He gave me no mind as he stepped over her, slinging his shotgun behind his back as he drew his machete. He knelt and beat down on the woman's neck with his machete. In a few clean hits, the fanged, ugly head came free. I was frozen in shock. I couldn't make sense of any of it. I didn't know whether to run, scream, or call the cops. What do you even do when something like this happens? When the guy was finished, he got up with a grunt. Holding the severed head in one hand, he reached into his back pocket and pulled out a few 50s. "Sorry about that. I'll take that pizza if you don't mind. She wasn't gonna eat it anyway," he said, handing me the cash. "Sure," I muttered in a whispered tone. He returned to packing up the head and dousing the headless corpse with lighter fluid. I was still standing there, unmoving. "Hey," he said, after realizing that I wasn't moving. "Go home, take a shower, forget all about this." I did exactly what he said, but it's been weeks now, and I still can't forget it. What the hell was that? Who or what was that woman? She looked so typical. She didn't want to die, but that guy knew she was something else. He probably saved my life for all I know. Yours, Jensen. Thank you for your testimony, Jensen. For all the things that go bump in the night of our human world. There are bound to be those who seek to extinguish them so that the rest of us may sleep soundly. It seems like you met one such person. That concludes this evening's broadcast. If you enjoyed the night's testimonies and would like to hear more, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell icon to get all the latest broadcasts. It supports our channel and our work to catalog and bring you testimonies of the paranormal happenings of this good earth. I've been your host, Timothy, broadcasting from my farm. Thank you for listening, and have a good night, dear listeners.